And Jesus replied, "There was a man going from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him, and departed, leaving him half dead. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." I have a question this morning for my current or former choristers. Are there any lessons that you've learned from Mr. Gary here, or from other choral directors that you've carried with you into other parts of your life? Can you think of any lessons that you might have carried with you? Gary, what would you like them to carry with them if they're not still singing in a choir?
Well, they should be singing in a choir.
Of course, of course.
I think intention.
Intention. So like the things about what they're doing.
What you do is in proper context.
What about more mundane things that might carry with someone into a public speaking role?
Speaking out.
Speaking out. And there's two others that I've learned that have been very important to me over the years. One is drink enough water, and two is don't lock your knees. I have been in at least 4 choir concerts over the course of my choral singing career in which people fainted. Usually, being a soprano on the front row, I was well away from the action. But one time, there was a young woman next to me, more petite than I am, when I was a senior in high school, and we had been traveling the city for the day on a choir tour, and it was hot. And about halfway through the second song, she had not drunk enough water, and I think her knees were locked, and she fainted right into me, prompting a domino chain of falling sopranos. People who are limp are heavy. Every toddler has learned this. If you've ever tried to get a limp toddler into a car seat, they've figured this out by the age of 2. And if it's hard to get a 30-pound toddler into a car seat, and it's hard to get a wilting soprano back up on her feet, it is also, I'm sure, very difficult to get this half-dead man heaped on to the back of the Samaritan's beast. Now, the heavy, limp, half-dead, these people are all of us. Now, the story of the Good Samaritan, in part, is that we are not the Samaritan. In part, we are the people who are half-dead in the ditch. That's the primary meaning of the story. Jesus is the Good Samaritan. He is the first Good Samaritan. He carries us, he picks us up, he offers us new life. There are burdens that we can't bear alone. We can't forgive our own sins. We can't come up with a 12-step project to make ourselves saints. We can't drag ourselves to all the places we need to be. We need the burden he carries for us on the cross. He is that first Good Samaritan. And he gives us this as a model for how we're to be neighbors to others, of course. And some of that's material. The man who's the Good Samaritan cares for the material needs of those around him. He picks him up. He puts him on the beast. He feeds him. He gives him medical care. He provides for those basic needs he has. And throughout the scriptures, the care for the widow and the orphan and the stranger and those in prison and those who are sick, this group of people who are half dead, who cannot lift themselves up by their own bootstraps, who cannot make their own way in the world, who need assistance, who need other people to shoulder the burdens for them, are mentioned all over, from the Old Testament to the New. But if you look at the first line of this parable, it's also about spiritual burdens. This man is traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He's traveling away from the spiritual center of Jewish religious life, away from the temple and its worship practices. It is Dante lost in the woods midway through the journey of his life. It's anybody who finds themselves half dead, wandering in a difficult time of life. Might be you in the pew today, feeling like you can't pray as you ought, or feeling like you can't believe as much as you think you should. We have all been half dead. We need the sacraments, and we need the care of others. And I wonder what it would look like if in our common life we viewed our common work together as ministry to the half dead. Now, I expect if you went and knocked on doors in Potomac and said, "Hey, you're half dead, can I help you?" it probably wouldn't go over well. We're in a community where we're used to being independent. We don't see ourselves as in need of someone else to carry our burdens often. We are materially affluent. Most people don't tend to need the kind of care that the Samaritan needed. They can afford doctors in Potomac. Most people. However, we are providing ministry to the half-dead in our own community and in others. And the Good Samaritan didn't just turn to this guy lying on the side of the road and say, "Hey, you look like you could use a doctor. I know a really great one over there." And he didn't just say, "If you're hungry, I know the place with the best fish and chips. You really should get over there." And he didn't say, "You know, St. Francis has the best flower guild and the friendliest ushers," and it's true, we might. But the half-dead need more than that. They need people to carry them. They need their burdens lifted. Now, this is the only model that Christ gives us, is a model of serving our neighbor that's heavy lifting. It's not just casual invitations. It's not just niceties of civilized conversation. Those things are good, and they're a starting point. But he calls us to carry one another, to do the heavy lifting. Instead of just inviting our friends to church, pick them up and bring them. Instead of just inviting them once, 5 or 6 times, we know that it takes about 10 invitations for someone to show up for the first time. It's scary to come to church for the first time. And people have heavy burdens that just, "Hi, how are you doing?" don't really find. We have to take the time to listen to people, to hear the things that weigh most deeply on their hearts. Now, you may not have to pick up any fainting choristers this week. I hope not. And you may not have to wrestle a toddler into their car seat. But I expect there are people you will meet along the way this week who are carrying heavy burdens or who are themselves half dead and limp. I hope that you'll keep an eye out for these people, because they're all around us, both here in this building and outside the doors of this community. And I hope you'll think about ways that you can pick them up. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.